Nobody seems happy in the National Hockey League right now, and that could mean a ton of trades. Hey, Joel Palin, welcome to another Hockey Talk Show Quick Hit. This one is going to be really, really quick. It's a Rumor Roundup episode. We're going to take a look at some of the rumors that are permeating right now in the National Hockey League, and there's a ton surrounding Vadim Shipachyov over there in Las Vegas. Yesterday on the show, we covered the story that he was going to be sent down and that his representative, Peter Svoboda, was given permission to go and find a trade all around the league. Montreal jumped out right away, said, not interested. And now we know that the Columbus Blue Jackets, according to Aaron Portzline, Portzline? Get back to me on that one, Aaron. Is saying that the Columbus Blue Jackets will not be a landing spot for him. You know, every reporter covering a team right now basically has to ask that question to the coach or general manager, or at least find out, like, are you kicking the tires on Shipachyov? The reason being is the reason why he's not sticking with Vegas right now. The guy doesn't really know how to play the North American game just yet. The NHL is completely different from the KHL. That's not to say that he's not going to work out or that it can't happen, but, you know, it takes a little bit of a period of adjustment. Now, do I think he's going to do well down there in the American Hockey League? You know what? I don't know if the American Hockey League is going to help him, but it's better for the franchise right now that he's not a liability on the ice for the Golden Knights. They're playing really well. They're winning, and they don't want anybody detracting from that. And if Shipachyov isn't ready to go, then he's not ready to go. Again, I completely trust Gerard Gallant in this situation. I think he came up, he scored a goal in his first game. That got me really excited for him. But if, I'm not watching all the Vegas Golden Knights games as close as Gerard Gallant is. So I'm going to trust him and, his instincts on this one, that he's just not ready. So great. Spend a little bit more time down in the A, and we'll get you back up here. Now, there's been a theory floated around on social media that Vegas is putting him down in Chicago to rid him of his contract. They want to get him in a position, basically, this is the theory online, that they're trying to get him to quit and walk away, and this way they don't have to pay him and they don't have to worry about anything else. The theory states that if they trade him, Vegas is going to have to hold on to salary. I think that's going to be a little bit of an issue for Vegas because they have so much salary cap space. Everybody's going to want him to hold on to salary. Think about all the players, Mikhail Grabowski, all these guys that they took because they needed to get to the floor, So with that being said, I think it's not that the rumor is crazy or this theory is crazy. I just don't think it's what's happening. I don't think it's what's happening. Do I think it's worked out for Shipachyov and Vegas? No. Do I think that Vegas is completely ready to throw in the towel on what potentially could be a really nice scorer and a really nice power play player? I don't think so. I don't think they're ready to give up on it this early on in the process. I really don't. And let's be honest, if he goes down and if he lights up the AHL, he's only going to up his trade value, and then Vegas can get something in return. I don't think Vegas is worried about the money. Bill Foley is not worried about the money. The Maloofs, they're not worried about the money. They're not worried about $4.5 million on their payroll this season. So that's, to me, the downside of that theory of Vegas is looking to get rid of Shipachyov by putting him down in the American Hockey League so he'll quit, walk away, and go back to the KHL. I'm just not buying it. A couple of big things here. The TSN NHL trade bait list has been updated. 5 Vegas Golden Knights are on there. And while we're on the Golden Knights, Jason Garrison put on waivers. That's super interesting to me because he was one of those trade chips. He was one of those guys that I thought Vegas could get a nice return for Garrison. They could do something with him. He's struggled a little bit. But I thought that, I think he's got that big shot. We'll see what happens. He went on as of noon today. So I think, let me see here. 1 year remaining on his deal at $4.6 million. Golden Knights have also sent Griffin Reinhart down to the AHL. We should mention that, but that's on a conditioning stint. Reinhart hasn't played the season and would have to clear waivers in order to be assigned to the AHL. Griffin Reinhart has been a pretty big disappointment. He will clear, I believe. I think Vegas taking him on was... Actually, I don't know why Vegas took him on. Maybe they wanted to peek under the hood and see, hey, why isn't this guy caught on? Islanders, Edmonton, he's never been able to make it. Maybe if we have a wide open blue line, we'll see. But Brad Hunt's emergence, the guy's just great. I've said this, but by the way, I said this when Montreal needed a player. I said, get a guy like Brad Hunt. The guy can move the puck. He can score. He's a good defenseman. He knows how to get out of his own zone. He just hasn't had the chance to get some playing time. And now look how good he's doing for the Vegas Golden Knights. So he might be solidifying himself in that defensive core that I don't think is going anywhere anytime soon with Nate Schmidt and the like. Let me see here. I think we'll wait and see. I guess tomorrow we'll find out at noon if anybody put in a claim for Jason Garrison. I would imagine that somebody would. You would think that somebody might. This might be a move for Montreal since they don't have to give up anything and they have the cap space. Now, the only reason why Montreal might not do this is because A, he's struggling, and B, they have the cap space now. But if they wanted to make a move, I think they have $6 million on cap space. If they wanted to make a move in a couple of weeks or a month or two, then that might get in the way, so that might be a possibility for them. But I think his struggles is the bigger thing. So Jason Garrison on waivers, a bit of a surprise there. As far as this trade bait list goes, 5 Vegas Golden Knights players are on the list, including James Neal. Come on. James Neal's not getting traded. No way. James Neal, I think, finishes this year as a Golden Knights. I wouldn't be surprised if they're not already talking about an extension for James Neal. The only way James Neal gets traded is if James Neal says, look, guys, I've enjoyed my time here, but I'm not going to stay here. This isn't for me. I'd like to go wherever. I don't know James Neal's thought process on that. I don't know if anybody's really asked him yet. We'll have to wait and see on that. But I would imagine that George McPhee and the crew are going to have that conversation with him before the trade deadline at some point. But to have him in a trade bait situation now that he's carrying the team, there's no way the Vegas Golden Knights let him go unless they're getting just a drop dead amazing offer for a current player, roster player, or a current prospect and 2 first round. Like, there's no way I would let James Neal go. He's become a face of the franchise. And that's important for, building your base, which Vegas is doing. They're not only competing for a playoff spot this year, they're trying to build something special. They're trying to build tradition, familiarity, and all that stuff. David Perron on that list, meh. Griffin Reinhart was on the list. He's been sent down now, so that kind of spoils it a little bit there. The one interesting thing I found as we move away, and by the way, just quickly before we move away from Vegas, I was talking to somebody about this, and it kind of was interesting to me. I thought about it. What if James Neal wants to go back to Nashville? What if he really enjoyed his time in Nashville? I mean, that could be possible, right? I know there's a rule that they can't trade him back. There's some draft rule, but what if he finishes the year and he's a free agent? He can sign wherever he wants. What if he wants to go back to Nashville? That'd be the only thing I can see, because here's a franchise, they got you. You're the number one guy there. If they have success, why would he want to leave? Unless he just doesn't really like the town, which is a personal preference. But I would imagine most of these players kind of just like what they play. They all live in nice houses. They all live in the nice neighborhoods. They all get, treated really well. So it's not really impossible for players to want to live anywhere. But I think James Neal going back to Nashville is a thing that sticks out of my mind as a possibility, because it's not like he's going to get more money from anywhere else. Vegas can write him whatever he wants. In fact, he probably has a good shot at getting the most money from Vegas. But if he's going to leave Vegas, I think about that. He had success in Nashville, chance to win. Maybe he goes back there and tries to ignite that franchise up again. Rick Nash on the trade bait list, and I think he was 10th on the list, which to me, he should be number 1 on the list. The Rangers are in dire trouble. They beat the Arizona Coyotes the other night. Great. But on the other hand, I looked at the stats. Rick Nash, through 11 games, has 1 goal. I mean, 1 goal in 11 games. That sucks. That flat out sucks. That is not a good year for Rick Nash. Look at this. 11 games, 1 goal. Rick Nash right now stinks on ice. Literally. Not a good year for the New York Rangers. I said this at the beginning of the season. You could check out the video. Should the Rangers trade Lundqvist? I said if they struggle, yes, they are struggling. I'd give them 10, 15, 20 more games to get out of this. If they can, it's time to unload. The problem is you try and trade Lundqvist. The contract's a problem. You got to find the right suitor. You might have to eat some cap. I said they should trade Nash too, if obviously in that situation, if they're not doing well. You're not going to get anything for Rick Nash. You're going to get a 6th round draft pick of Rick Nash if he's only putting up 1 goal in 11 games. I mean, those numbers are just awful. They're just awful. At least he's played in all the games. That's the only plus I give. He's -5, 1 goal. You know, he's just, it's just not good. 8 penalty minutes. I mean, his shooting percentage is abysmal. 2.4%. I don't know what to tell you, man. He stinks right now. Rick Nash has got to get out of this. The problem is, you know, this is, and I think this is going to become Mika Zibanejad's team. It's clearly no longer Nash's. I just don't think they know what to do with him. He looks a little bit slower. He's just not having a good year, and he needs to have a good year. It's a contract year for him. He needs to figure it out. Duchesne is on the list, obviously. Mike Green is on the list. A lot of players on the list who have contracts expiring. In fact, everybody who's got a contract expiring is basically on the list here. This was an interesting idea. Duchesne for Shipachyov. Again, Shipachyov has to improve his value if anybody's going to make a move for him. Duchesne for Shipachyov, centerman for centerman, but you're getting an unproven commodity. But at least you have somebody under contract and under control. Maybe Sakic can turn him around there in Colorado. Maybe he gels well with the players. Who knows? I wouldn't see that move anytime soon. But the thing that I want to point out here as we wrap up this very quick hit on the Rumor Roundup, nobody seems happy. Nobody seems happy in the league right now. You take a look at the standings, and outside of Vegas, outside of Pittsburgh, outside of Tampa, you know, even teams that are second in their division, third in their division, you know, nobody's happy. Everybody's like, we got to improve. We need a puck-moving defenseman. We need to get better up the middle. They all want to make improvements. They're all unhappy. They all want to make improvements. I think we're going to see one of the bigger trade flurries in the year this year, in the National Hockey League this year. I think this is the year that there's going to be a lot of relocation trades. I just think there's too many teams that need to make some improvements. I think, sure, the Rangers, the Montreal Canadiens, we talked about all this. But then, you know, you also have your Winnipeg Jets. Anaheim's 500, Minnesota's 500, San Jose is a game of under 500. What's happening in Edmonton? 3-5. Seems like nobody on that team is going except for Connor McDavid. They're all watching him with a puck, which I think is also the same problem that the New York Islanders have. They're all watching John Tavares with the puck. You know, it gets a little tough. Toronto needs a defenseman. Mitch Marner being brought up as, hey, if this guy continues to fall out of favor, can he be had for a defenseman, a good defenseman, maybe? It's something to look forward to. So I think that the Rumor Roundup for right now is everybody's unhappy, calm way before the storm. But I think the storm is going to be a big storm this year. I really do. I really think we're going to see a lot of deals in the league this year. It just seems like a lot of teams need to make something happen. That is your Hockey Talk Show quick hit. Make sure you guys are following on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Hockey Talk Show. Our website is hockeytalkshow.com. Live shows going to be coming soon on Facebook and YouTube. Search Hockey Talk Show. And of course, if you're listening on podcast numbers are just, I can't believe how good they are. You guys are finding the podcast because we're not really advertising it all that much outside of this show right here. So thank you for doing that. I got a really nice note from somebody the other day that said they've been watching the shows and they found it on the podcast, and now they're listening in their car through the auxiliary jack, which is super sweet. I really appreciate that. Dan was his name. Dan, very nice guy, Dan. Thanks for being along for the program. Make sure you guys are rating and reviewing the podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, and the TuneIn app. You can favorite it and follow along. I will see you guys on the next shift.